Kim, tell us more about the nursing grades and levels for VA nurses.
Certainly, Anna. As you can see on the slide above, it illustrates that there are 5 grades and 7 levels for registered nurses in VA. Nurse 1 has 3 levels, the Nurse 1 Level 1, Nurse 1 Level 2, and Nurse 1 Level 3. The slide also illustrates that the first 3 grades, Nurse 1 through Nurse 3, are all rank in person, which we already discussed. Remember, for grades 1 through 3, the grade for a nurse is determined by his or her education, experience, and qualifications based on the recommendation of the NPSB. And Nurse 4 and Nurse 5 positions, on the other hand, are rank in person and position. So if one looks at job postings on USA Jobs for VA nursing positions, one will not see jobs posted as Nurse 1, 2, or 3 because the rank is not in the position. You will see jobs posted as Nurse 4 or Nurse 5. It is important to remember that the NPSB recommends the applicant's grade first and then determines the step within the grade based on evidence found within the applicant's file. Lisa has assured me that a consistent formula is applied to all appointments, and nurse recruiters and human resources have a process for informing RN applicants about the nurse qualification standard on the front end, so the applicant can submit as much information as possible to help the NPSB determine the proper grade upon appointment. HR and nurse recruiters ensure complete information is documented about part-time or flex-time positions so the total years of RN experience can be totaled correctly. VetPro only validates the past 10 years of RN experience, and the NPSB will count all RN experience documented by the applicant. Also, the NPSB makes determination if a nurse's resume, application, and other supporting documents are in order as to whether or not to give credit for all the years of experience. With that said, some documents that are acceptable for review when NPSB meets to make the grade determination include the applicant's last 1 to 2 performance appraisals, reference letters, interview notes. The interviewer should ask about all past jobs and the associated work experience, and that should be documented during the interview process. And of course, your resume or CV. And Anna, one myth that I think should be dispelled is that RNs at Nurse 1, 2, and 3 level, when they're transferring from another VA facility, are not boarded again by the receiving station if they've already been appointed to an accepted appointment by the sending station. Instead, they're placed on the appropriate pay schedule by the receiving station at their current grade and step.
Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
So, Lisa and Ellen, can you tell us what the board uses to make this grade and step decision?
Sure. So each grade and level for RNs have specific education and experience requirements. For Nurse 1 Level 2, the education requirement for a nurse with no experience is a BSN or an AD or diploma with a bachelor's degree in a field related to nursing. So nursing has traditionally in VA recognized education in nurses, and we try to pay our nurses more for more education. So when we hire a brand new nurse who has an associate degree or a diploma, that nurse comes in at a Nurse 1 Level 1. A new nurse who has a bachelor's degree in nursing and no experience, or again the AD with a bachelor's degree in a related field, they'll come in at Nurse 1 Level 2, which is usually a few steps higher than Nurse 1 Level 1. A nurse who has an associate degree or diploma and no other education has to have at least 1 year of experience before they can be appointed to the Nurse 1 Level 2 or promoted to that particular grade.
So to continue, a Nurse 1 Level 3 would be that nurse that has an associate degree or diploma, but they must also have approximately 2 to 3 years nursing experience to be appointed or promoted to that grade, actually. So if the nurse had a bachelor's degree in nursing or a field related to nursing, they still must have 1 to 2 years experience to be appointed at that Nurse 1 Level 3. If the nurse happened to have a master's degree in nursing or related field, or they came from a bridge program where no BSN was actually awarded as part of that program, the nurse would not be required to have any minimum experience to be appointed or promoted to a Nurse 1 Level 3. So you can see by these requirements, they're very clear that there is a systematic approach to determining that pay and grade level.
Yes, so let's talk about Nurse 2. The minimum education requirement for Nurse 2 is a bachelor's degree in nursing or a field related to nursing. So a nurse who has an associate degree or diploma as their basic education in nursing, if in order to be eligible for Nurse 2, they have to have a bachelor's degree in a field related to nursing. And let me just say something about the field related to nursing. I've mentioned that. Ellen's mentioned it. What the heck does that mean? The handbook is very vague about what a field related to nursing means. It just says a field related to nursing. So we have on the Office of Nursing Services a tool that's guidelines to help the NPSB members make a determination about whether a degree is in a related field or not. But it really is up to the NPSB members to make that determination. There's nothing definitive that says this particular degree is related and this particular degree is not related. So I get that question quite often. So a nurse with an associate degree or diploma with no further education is not eligible for appointment at Nurse 2 because, again, the basic education requirement for that grade is the bachelor's degree in nursing. Now, the experience requirements for Nurse 2 are 2 to 3 years for a nurse with a BSN or a master's or bachelor's in a related field. 1 to 2 years for those nurses who have a master's degree in nursing or a related field. A nurse with a doctorate in nursing or a related field with no experience could be appointed at Nurse 2 if they met all the other qualification requirements. So we look at more than just the education and experience. It is important that I note that VA policy does not allow us to waive education on appointment. We can recommend education waivers for promotion, as the handbook has an allowance for that, but we don't have a similar allowance for appointment.
And so now we talk about Nurse 3. So the minimum education under the Nurse 3 is a master's degree in nursing or related field. And the experience requirement is a minimum of 2 to 3 years, and that's nursing experience. It applies even if the nurse has a nursing or a related field doctorate degree. So it's still going to require some nursing experience to be at that Nurse 3 level. As Lisa said, the NPSB cannot consider an education waiver upon appointment, but they can recommend a waiver of education for promotion. Also would require that the nurse met all the qualifications and the nurse performance would warrant such a recommendation of education waiver. Also, back to policy, we can't stray too far from policy. It's important to note that VA policy only allows one education waiver for a nurse. So if you had a nurse that had an associate degree or diploma and they were promoted to nurse 2 with an education waiver, that nurse could not have a waiver for them to be considered for promotion to nurse 3. Now, same nurse, if they obtained additional education, so they went back and obtained a bachelor's in nursing or a degree in a related field to nursing, then that would negate that previous education waiver. So now this same nurse would be eligible for a possible waiver, education waiver, for promotion to nurse 3. Again, it would have to be more criteria than just the degree. The degree alone does not qualify for promotion. It's based on those nurse qualification standards that we keep referring to, the nurse's performance, which Kim explained to us, that rank in person. The other thing is only the Nurse Professional Standards Board can recommend an education waiver. And this is important to note, that it has to be that board of peers to recommend it. The employee cannot request a waiver, and a supervisor cannot recommend a waiver. And back to the approving official. Only the approving official can approve a waiver of education. So as you recall, Lisa told us that the Chief Nursing Officer, Dr. Gage, is the approving official for the Central Office Board, which you've also learned is the board that reviews all CPAC RUR nurses.